Well, hello everyone. Welcome to my Instagram live. It's been quite a while that I haven't done such live session through my web profile, but I'm so happy that you're here. So, without any further ado, let me give you a short, brief introduction or about our speaker tonight. Also goes by the name MM. She's a small animal clinician from Manila, Philippines, and she graduated from the University of Philippines, Los Banos College of Veterinary Medicine in August 2020. She also ranked second on the August and September's 2021 veterinarian license exams in Philippines, and known for her Instagram handler account that is at the red of lifting vet. She uses our social media platform to talk about mental health and share the awareness. So without further ado, let me give an invitation to Dr. Carmela, and we will be so within that let me tell our viewers that you can put any questions related to mental health or anything that you would like to ask to Dr. Lizares. Please feel free to do so. And don't worry about my voice. It's cracking up a bit. Hi, Carmela. How are you?
Hi, how are you?
I'm so happy to have you in my Instagram live.
Thank you for having me.
Okay. Can you hear the voice can you hear the cracking voice in me?
No, you sound fine actually.
Yeah, okay. Thank you for that.
Yeah.
Well, thank you so much for doing this with me. Mental health itself is such a big topic, and having you, the one who talks about it, like in daily basis and aware people about its importance, I am more than thrilled. So let me ask you first, how was your day?
Oh, my day's been really great. I got to have some rest, some much needed physical, emotional, mental, and spiritual rest. I had a lovely Christmas. Merry
Mm-hmm.
Christmas, by the way.
Thank you.
um, Yeah, and we also were able to organize relief operations for the victims of the recent typhoon that hit the Philippines just before Christmas. So it was Typhoon Odette. And
Mm-hmm.
this is a kind of a shameless plug on my end, so I hope you don't mind. But we are raising funds for the victims who were displaced from their homes and have no access to food and clean drinking water. And so you can find the details of that on my page.
Yeah, sure. I think we'll definitely go and maybe give a share and then spread the word itself. Yeah, thank you for sharing that with us, well, Dr. Carmela. And so you have already joined the clinical life, right? So how is the
Yes.
clinical life treating you so far? Tell us about it.
Oh gosh. New grad vet life has been fun.
Mm-hmm.
It has been challenging, definitely tiring and invigorating all at the same time. And you know what they say about your first year out being a steep learning curve?
True.
Well, I'm here to say that's absolutely true.
Yeah.
But I am very blessed to say that I was able to join a workplace that's just so incredibly supportive. And my boss, bless him, he uh, he significantly pays attention to the wellness of his staff.
Mm-hmm.
So that's really a big blessing. So he not only sets boundaries in terms of clinic hours, but he also sets boundaries in terms of knowing when the phrase clients are always right just isn't true. And in our workplace, we take a great deal of time and effort to understand where our clients are coming from and even adjust to them. And we treat clients like friends, really.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm just so happy to be part of a workplace that does not client shame because I find that so toxic.
Yeah.
And but despite that, my boss protects his staff from the rare case wherein a client becomes abusive. And as a result of that, 99.9% of our clients are just so unbelievably nice and just the best partners in pet care. So, yeah, it's been great so far.
Wow. I think you raised a lot of, concerns about the employee situation as well and the wellness part. I think we can do that more discussion in the part two itself. And
Yeah.
thank you for saying that. But so we are talking about like in general about mental health.
Mm-hmm.
So when was that point in your life when you like felt that okay, mental health is important, and when did you find that closer to mental health?
Okay, thank you for this question. Please bear with me as I try to answer this as best as I could because the answer is just not as straightforward as I'd like it to be.
Mhm.
So this is a very personal story for me, but I don't mind sharing. I hope that this helps those who are struggling in silence. When I was 17, I noticed signs of depression within myself,
Mhm.
but back then there wasn't a lot of conversations surrounding mental health. And so I just couldn't find the courage to come forward and seek help. And not only that, whenever I did have the courage to say to my loved ones or people surrounding me regarding how I felt, I would receive comments such as, "What do you have to be sad about?" Or two, "It could be worse." Or three, a lot of people would just shrug it off and say, "Your generation, you guys just have so much issues." And because of this, I think I had a hard time, seeking professional help. And I was just fortunate that these comments did not push me off the edge. But there are a lot of people who would be really, really gravely affected by that. And so right now, I just want to take this time to warn people against saying these comments because one, they are just not as helpful. Two, they're downright unkind. And three, they can really push anyone off the edge. And so, we really need to be more mindful of the way we communicate with people who are struggling and the way we support them. And, today I ask myself if there were more conversations about mental health back then, would I have sought help sooner? I also asked myself if I hadn't received those comments, would I have had the courage to seek help? Instead of suffering in silence. And, that went on for about a year. And it was one of the hardest years of my life, honestly. And I call it my personal Pandora's box
Mhm.
because every time I start to talk about it, I start to feel it physically and emotionally. And moving on, in 2017, my family, we lost our youngest sister to a car accident. And, we went through the motions of grief, which were more like waves rather than the stages. And a few months after her passing, I noticed that, there would be nights where I just could not sleep, or I'd have, panic attacks at random times of the night, um, and to the point where it disrupted my studying because at the time I was already in vet school. So, yeah, that was that. And that was the time I was finally able to say, you know what, I'm going to seek help. And there are many factors that, led to me finally being able to come forward. And I think that one of those factors is the fact that around this time, more people started to talk about mental health. Secondly, my friends encouraged me and did not stop encouraging me, you know, to seek help. And thirdly, I think that the shared grief I had with my parents, allowed them to actually support me to seek help. And when I finally was able to talk to a professional, I was diagnosed with generalized anxiety disorder, which is which is described as an exaggerated or excessive worry about things which are out of proportion to the actual situation itself. And that's how it differs from occasional anxiety. That was when I got my closure because it helped me to understand what it was I was struggling with. And a lot of people ask me today, how does it feel to be diagnosed with generalized anxiety disorder? And this might be a strange thing to say, but it actually feels good. Not the having GAD part, but the knowing what it is part.
Yeah.
Because knowing what it is that I've been struggling with all these years has allowed me to understand myself, and that has allowed me to move forward in my healing journey. And not only that, it has allowed me to understand those who are struggling and better support them. So yeah, that's a short version of my story. Yeah.
Wow. Let me process first. I mean, like, those were like very voluminous, informations. Uh, and I think you're very, very courageous to share that with us, in a platform like this. Oh my God, I don't know where to start, because, uh, you know, I'm contemplating, like thinking about it, and thank you for sharing that with us. I think it's an opportunity, and I think we have to be lucky to have your story heard. And that's at the age of 17, like you knew that you had some issue going on, and finally, like, knowing about it, that, wow, okay, uh that was too much for me. Sorry, because
I'm sorry.
no, I felt like, I think that was, very generous of you to share that with us and to all the audience. Yeah, thank you so much. Like you said, when you seek for help, to your friends or other people, they're also shocked off sometimes. And a lot of time when we talk about mental health, people directly jump into conclusions saying, okay, go and do the meditation, go and do the journal, you'll feel okay. And I think a lot of time they have the solution, but for people, when we talk about mental health, I think it's also important to recognize the first step. Okay, I'm having this issue. There's something not right with me, and I need to seek help. So when do you think, and how can someone feel that, okay, there's something going on with my mental health?
Yeah, that's such a terrific question, Bima. And honestly, you made a really good point there. Awareness is the first step. And this is one that is well practiced in the Vet Success Academy by Dr. Polly and Dr. Hines. And that's how I came across you and met
Yeah.
you. And that's part of the reason why we're here tonight. And you might have noticed that at the start of every session, there would be pre-prepared questions that are related to the topic for that day. For example, burnout, and then we'd rate ourselves from 1 to 10 based on how we are at that time, and that gives us a better idea of how we're doing in that specific season of our life. And you know for me, that's a really good practice of being honest with oneself. And that awareness serves as a starting point, to moving forward. And I think that as vets, we know, or rather, we should know, that arriving at a diagnosis is not the end. Neither is it the end goal. Often it is the starting point, for treatment and management. And we spend so much time trying to arrive at a diagnosis, or at least when we, even if it's not a mental illness, even if it's an emotion that we are struggling with, I feel like being able to name that emotion, or if you're struggling with a mental illness, being able to get the formal diagnosis from a professional helps you to, move forward in your healing. And I'm not a licensed therapist, so I may not be able to be the best person to enumerate the symptoms that one should be aware of. But what I can do is I can share the questions that I ask myself on a regular basis in order to know where my mental health is at, or when I need to take a pause, or when I finally acknowledge that, okay, there's something's up and I need to adjust. So my first question that I ask myself is, how am I feeling today, or how have I been feeling lately? And I know this question sounds obvious, simple, but how often do we really ask ourselves that and actually genuinely pause to consider the honest response, right? Um, and my therapist has actually taught me to name my emotions, because sometimes I feel like we just place them all in a pile and say we're anxious. But sometimes it can be sadness, it can be loneliness, it can be overwhelmed. There's a wide array of emotions that you may be feeling. And the next question I ask myself is, what is contributing to this feeling of, for example, overwhelm? And I list all of those down in my journal. So I the process of listing is not so that I can address each and every thing that's there, but just so I see it and I know, okay, these things are contributing to that. Can I do something about some of the things, and what things are out of my control? And it's just this process of letting it out, putting it on paper instead of holding it in your mind, and holding the tension in your body. And that's actually the next question that I ask myself. So first is, how am I feeling? Second is, what is contributing to that feeling? And the third question I ask myself is, where do I feel it in my body? Because as we know today, there is a growing body of scientific evidence that is saying that we hold tension in different parts of our body, and therefore that affects our physical health. So I feel like it is very important to also ask ourselves, okay, where am I holding it? And oftentimes it's in different places. Like at night, I sometimes feel the tension in my shoulders or in my lower back. And what I do is I breathe into these spaces. And lately, I've added yin yoga to my self-care routine, just so I can aid in that process. And I also ask myself, am I taking time to meet my body's needs? As humans, we have physical bodies that we need to take care of. And I ask myself, how has my diet been? Because we also know that, according to science, that 90% of our what do you call this? 90% of serotonin is from the gut, not from our brain. So I always ask myself, how's my diet been? Am I getting 7 to 8 hours of sleep? And when was the last time I exercised? And the goal behind asking ourselves these questions is not to achieve perfection, like I'm gonna sleep 7 to 8 hours every night, like no, that I don't feel like that's the goal, at least on my part. I feel like being aware of these things and just checking in on ourselves is a means by which we can serve others better. So achieving mental health in itself is not the purpose, but the means. in which we can, do better in our, our relationships, in our work, and then just, loving those around us, and, becoming better people. So yeah. What else did I miss? I also asked myself, by the way, I'm a Christian, so I asked myself, how am I doing spiritually? Am I taking some time with the Lord? Because, well, it is my personal belief that He is the reason for why I'm able to love others, because He loved me first, and so He has been and continues to be my source of everything. So that's another aspect that's very important for me, and I know others can relate as well. Yeah.
Wow. First, like, let me just soak into that kind of information because I think you put it so well. It's not about achieving the perfect mental health, but it's the means, and these kind of stuff. Like, really, I do journal a lot of time on daily basis, but I think it's once in a blue moon that I ask myself, how do I feel? I do have the
Mhm.
intention, I do have the to-do list. It's more about being productive for the day, but back at the part of my head, it's like I'm like stacking off these emotions and just ignoring about
Yeah.
it. you know
Yeah.
and I think that should be the first question that I should write, like, how am I
Uh-huh.
feeling, and then what is contributing that feeling, and the next the question that follows up. Wow. These are like, although these are like very small, seems small like you mentioned, but this makes a huge difference in your day. um Definitely going to do that, and you have to tell a lot of us about the Yin Yoga in the next part. I would love to know about it
Mhm.
as well. Okay, so
Yeah.
for the part two, which we will be doing on 2nd January, the same time, we I think it's I, I think it would be important that we also take a sneak peek about why mental health itself is very important in a profession like the veterinary setup. So why is mental health and the veterinary profession is linked to each other?
Mhm.
So what's in
Mhm.
your view?
Yeah. Yeah. I'm looking forward to that one.
hmm So would you like to share something about it to our like a teaser to
Sorry,
all,
which one?
like
Which one?
why the like why veterinary profession,
Mhm.
so let me put it that way, why mental health is considered an important factor in terms of veterinary
Mhm.
profession.
Yeah. Yeah. Um, I feel like there are just so many reasons why, but I think I'm gonna hone in on just two tonight.
Yeah.
In general, I feel like mental health is an important topic for everyone, not just the veterinary profession, because everyone has mental health. I think that's the common mistake that people make, is that they feel like only people with mental illness have mental health, but that's just not true. Everyone has mental health because we were designed with body, mind, relationships and spirit. And so one of the most helpful things that I've come to learn about mental health came from Dr. Matthew Stanford. I'm not sure if you're familiar with him, but he is a psychiatry professor. He is a published author, and he is also the CEO of Hope and Healing Center and Institute in Texas. And he explains that mental health is a continuum rather than, a bucket that we
Wow.
place people in. So rather than saying, this person has mental health and is okay, and this person is not okay, it's in another bucket. He explains that that's not the case. Rather, as human beings, we can go back and forth, in this continuum based on the circumstances we're in, the challenges and the difficulties that we're facing, and even the support that's available to us at that time.
Mhm.
So yeah, that's one important thing and point that I'd like to make, is that everyone has mental health. And just because not everyone will experience mental illness in their lifetime doesn't mean they are spared from the possibility of it. So, at any given day, it can be you, it can be me, it can be your child, it can be anyone. So I feel like, awareness is important for everyone, right? Because, yeah, like I said, it can be you, it can be me, it can be anyone, really. And the second reason why I feel mental health is an important conversation within the veterinary profession has something to do with the statistics surrounding it. So I know there's been increased awareness lately. If you've been on Instagram or even on Google, we already have the statistics about suicide and about mental health struggles within the profession. And I'm just gonna pull up my notes on that. So, according to this article published by VetX International in May 2021, two female vets are 2.4 times more likely to commit suicide compared to the average person, whereas male vets were 1.6 times more so. Moreover, in another study by Dr. Tomasi and others published in the JAVMA in 2019, 9% of vets in the United States at the time were struggling with high levels of physiological distress. 31% had experienced a depressive episode at some stage in their careers, and 17% had suffered from suicidal ideation. So, why are these numbers important? And what's the point of knowing these things? And for me, while these statistics sound bleak, we have hope, and we should be motivated and really encouraged to keep having these conversations to help our brothers and sisters in vet med, because we have vets all over the world who are doing great and important work. We have vets in public health like yourself. We have vets who are taking care of animals and even people in several diverse ways. And there's just so much more. And my hope is that we keep coming together to have these conversations and discussions in our workplaces locally, in our countries, and even, in the veterinary profession as a whole. Why? Because it's people's lives on the line. And my hope is that together, I do not have all the answers to solving the mental health problem in vet med. No one has all the answers, but I'm willing to keep coming to this table and have, these conversations with people in order to create a better future for vet med and for future vets, really. Yeah.
Wow. Thank you for the statistics, Dr. Carmela. Well, that was his number. Yeah. So we will be discussing about more on the compassion fatigue, the anxiety, the depression that goes in the veterinary profession. And not just that, but we'll also be discussing about things, how we can move forward in the next part two as well. So with that, thank you so much. And for joining me and doing this interview. We will see everyone on 2nd January, same time for the part two, where Dr. Carmela will be discussing about everything that you need to know in mental health in the veterinary profession. So with that, I think it's time to say goodbye. And thank you, Dr. Carmela
No,
Lizares.
thank
I really
you.
appreciate this time.
Thank you, Bima, for giving me this opportunity to please help end the stigma in my own little way. I really appreciate being here. You are such a joy to speak with.
Same, likewise, Dr. Carmela. Okay, so see you next week. Is that the next week? Yeah.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
Okay.
We'll see everyone then. Bye.
Bye. Okay. So thank you everyone for joining in. That was Dr. Carmela Lizares. She's a small animal clinician from Manila, Philippines, and I have already let you know that we are also doing a part two, which will be on 2nd of January, same time, that is 6 p.m. NPT Nepali time and 8:15 Manila, Philippines time. We also have a very, I think someone mentioned here, Jonathan, the hashtag no more vet. That is a brilliant hashtag for the awareness on suicide increasing in the veterinary profession. You can go and see that hashtag and follow as well. Thank you for joining in. See you next week on 2nd January, same time, same with a different topic, but a very exciting topic to discuss. Thank you. See you then. Bye bye. Merry Christmas.